Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about some pretty big news that has got a lot of people excited, and that's PlayStation 3 emulation on Android with RPCS3. And it turns out that RPCS3 has just released an alpha build. So if we take a look on GitHub, and like everything we talk about, links will be in the description below right on the bottom in the event that you wanted to learn more about it. Anyways, on GitHub here under DHRPCS3, who is one of the founders of RPCS3, we can see RPCS3 Android. Now, we've talked about this quite a bit in the last few videos. Anyways, here it appears that alpha test build number 1 has been released. There are a couple of caveats though. First and foremost, this is a very early release. It's an alpha test build, so don't expect it to be perfect. Don't expect this to be running a whole bunch of games absolutely flawlessly. This to me right now is just a testing build and there may be some serious issues. However, there are reports out there already about games working. It seems it's pretty easy to set up. It is 100% free and open source, and I guess feel free to test it out if you want. There is something worth noting though, taking a look at some of the issues, and well, there's some unrealistic expectations. So first and foremost here, I see some posts about Mali GPUs and support for Mali GPUs. And I would say the support for Mali GPUs should be coming from Mali, not necessarily from the emulator. We've seen this time and time again with emulators that require a bit more horsepower from phones. Mali GPU drivers are notoriously not that great. Snapdragon with Adreno is generally the way to go if you're looking for the absolute best emulation experience. So I wouldn't necessarily pin this one on RPCS3 for not working well with Mali. Mali itself just seems to be a problem in general. And secondly here, I've seen a couple of more comments that give me a bit more concern. For example, someone asking to make a 32-bit version of this emulator. If you've got a 32-bit only device, you're probably not going to be having a very good time trying to emulate the more recent systems out there. I would say a 32-bit phone in this day and age is already an outdated device and underpowered in the general market. On top of that, I've been seeing people asking about older versions of Android, like Android 10 and 11. If I'm not mistaken, Android 10 came out back in like 2019. It is very outdated at this point in time. RPCS3, from my understanding, works on Android 12 Plus. Now, if you've got an older device, running an older version of Android, you're probably not going to have a good time with RPCS3 at this point in time. I mean, RPCS3 is in early alpha testing stages. It's probably going to work on flagship devices, very powerful devices, and not flagship devices from like 5, 6, 7 years ago, and definitely not lower tier devices at this point in time. I don't know if it'll ever get to the point where it'll work on lower end devices, but at the same time here, if you do have a lower end device, you're going to have to be realistic with expectations on terms of power and what that device can do. Now, I know there's going to be a number of people who are not happy about what I just said, but facts are facts. And I mean, I've got a Google Pixel and it's probably not going to be very well suited at all for RPCS3. I do have a secondary device that I use strictly for emulation. It's got a Snapdragon 888 in it, and that may be far more suited for this version of RPCS3. We'll have to wait and see on that. I'll have to get into testing it and see how things are. But at the end of the day, be realistic with performance. Be realistic with the performance of your device. And also be realistic that this is just an alpha test build. This is not a final polished version yet. The final polished version may take quite a bit of time. You're going to have to be patient with this one and see how it shapes up. It is exciting though. Next up, we're talking about Steam, and it seems as if Steam has just hit another milestone. 40 million people online at the exact same time. This number has been steadily growing for years, and hitting over 40 million, a lot of people are saying, was because of Monster Hunter Wilds. Now, obviously, all 40 million people are not playing Monster Hunter Wilds. It's not solely responsible for that number. But at the same time here, back in December, there were 39 million people online using Steam. And Monster Hunter has over 1 million people playing it, so it's not too far-fetched to think that Monster Hunter had a hand in pushing Steam over that 40 million player mark. At the end of the day here, I would argue that this is great for Steam and the continued growth of PC gaming, and I'm hoping this number continues to grow. And continuing to talk about Steam, next up here we're talking about Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, Assassin's Creed Shadows launches on March 20th, just in a few weeks. If we take a look here, it will have de novo. And if I scroll down, it's currently unsupported for the Steam Deck. Now, back a few weeks ago, and I think we talked about this one in a previous video, Ubisoft did have a Q&A, and someone asks, will the game be Steam Deck certified at launch? And Ubisoft said, at launch, the game will not be compatible with the Steam Deck due to the fact it is below our minimum specs for PC. Now, I don't know about the other gaming handhelds out there, like the Lenovo Legion Go or anything like that. However, for the Steam Deck specifically, it will not be compatible, and I don't know if it ever will be. We're going to have to wait and see here to see if the game gets optimized to run on the Steam Deck. I mean, Monster Hunter runs on the Steam Deck. Kinda. That game still has a ways to go. Anyways, here, taking a look, I'm not holding my breath because they say that the low graphics are still going to look really good. And I would argue it may just come down to GPU processing power, but we're going to have to wait and see. I would say to run on the Steam Deck, this may need an ultra low setting. I don't know about that one, but let me know your thoughts about that in the comments below. This may be one of those hardware capability issues. And speaking about GPUs and also Steam, next up here, we're talking about the most popular GPU currently used by Steam users. This one may surprise you. It turns out that it's an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4060. What I find interesting about this is that between January and February, the amount of 4060 users has almost doubled. Yes, it's not a huge amount, but at the same time, there's a whole bunch of different video cards available, and the highest concentration does seem to be 4060, sitting at just over 8.5% of all Steam users using the 4060. Interestingly, here in the top 10 and just outside of the top 10 in 10th and 11th place, we've got the 1650 and 1060. It seems those GPUs are still holding on. Next up, we're talking about a game on the PS1 you may not be familiar with, but may be familiar with soon. It's called, I'm going to butcher this one, Genei Tougi, or subscribe to Mr. Sujano, depending on how you want to pronounce that. Shadow Struggle. This is a fighting game for the PS1, and it was a Japanese exclusive, and it's just been translated to English. Now, I don't think I've ever played this game. It was released back in 1996, and it does look pretty interesting based on the videos, and I may have to give it a try. It is up on Hilltop's Patreon page. It's a fan translation, and it's not hidden behind a paywall. If you are curious about this one and wanted to learn more about it, like everything we talk about, link is in the description below right at the bottom. Next up, we're shifting from fight to flight and talking about FlightGear, which is a free and open source flight simulator. And FlightGear just got a brand new release. Now, the title of this release is a little bit misleading because they call it 2024.1.1, which I take as January 1st, 2024. And well, we're already in March of 2025. But rest assured, this is the latest and greatest version. They say here, after many years of work, the new stable release of the free open source flight simulator FlightGear is finally here. This update has a whole bunch of fixes and optimization and some brand new stuff here. They've added in real-time dynamic shadows and lights, and they've also added preliminary support for VR headsets using OpenXR. Again, FlightGear is 100% free and open source and may be worth checking out. It's available for Linux, Windows, and Mac. And last up here, we're talking about Doom, and this probably shouldn't surprise anyone, but someone's got Doom up and running on the Wii, specifically an old Windows version. I'll drop a link to the tweet in the description below and feel free to check it out. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Feel free to discuss anything we talked about in the comments below. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button. Check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate. Save your state. And I'll see you tomorrow.